It's 2:05 on Talk Radio 790 KABC. You're listening to the John Phillips Show. Johnny is back on Monday. We made it. It's the final hour of the fill-in, everybody. It's Randy Wang here, broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. You can always join the show at 800-222-KABC. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. We got a lot of requests for Tony Bennett songs today because Tony Bennett passed away. Mcintyre will join us at 2:35 to eulogize the great singer. And, of course, please, if you like social media and you like food or you like wine, follow me on the socials, Instagram and Twitter, Randy Wang Radio. And you can see what I do when I'm not doing this. Now, one thing that I love about when I'm filling in for Johnny is I can go into the massive backlog of stories that I put together, I produced, but something happened and we just never got to it. And one of the things that I wanted to get to so badly last week was something that involves our dear governor, Gavin Newsom.
I don't know why we're so damn sheepish.
Because I feel like, and this is still a week later, I'm the only person that knows that this exists. Gavin Newsom has a YouTube channel. He has one for his political stuff whenever he's running for office. I don't really see that one. It's not updated very often. But there is an official Governor of California YouTube page, and it's where all of his live press conferences come from. That's where I get all of this nonsense.
Google it. I mean, it's not just about money. It's about damn accountability. That is something we are mindful of.
I get all those drops from Gavin Newsom's YouTube page. And I had noticed late one night as I was just ready to go to bed that it wasn't a new live event being posted, but an 18-minute video was posted to Gavin Newsom's YouTube page. It's called The California Way. And in fact, let me look this up right now because I still think I'm the only person that has realized this video exists. And maybe they didn't mean to post it right away, but they posted it. And it currently has, and you got to remember, this is the governor of a state of 40 million people. It was posted 9 days ago, and it has under 2,000 views. But it is an 18-minute movie that was, I can assume, written by Gavin Newsom or his staffers, but narrated by Gavin Newsom and features nonstop action of Gavin Newsom fist-bumping people. It is bizarre. It is propaganda, and it sounds like something that you would see if you're sitting at Disneyland getting ready to go on the big California adventure ride.
California.
Soaring over California, that was it. I haven't been to Disneyland in 4 years. It's been a minute. I mean, now it's expensive.
California. I love this state and all the parts that make us home.
Got to get the birds in for that one.
Here, freedom is a right for all, not a privilege for some. That freedom is why people come from all around the world, from every conceivable background and walk of life, for every possible reason.
I don't know who did the sound mixing, but they would not be getting an award from me because I can barely hear the jackass narrating over the sweeping music.
Realize the California dream. A place where with hard work and a helping hand, anything is possible. I don't just believe it, I've seen it.
And then we move on to Gavin Newsom talking about some of the great programs in the state of California, and he gets to public safety, which is the most important job of any elected official, keeping their people safe.
We're restoring peace of mind. Californians want to feel safe in their homes, on their streets, and in their communities. That's why we've been hard at work bolstering local law enforcement to investigate and solve crimes quicker and better, prosecuting organized theft rings, and getting guns and drugs off the streets.
The problem with that is it's real hard to take Gavin Newsom seriously that he wants to bolster police and keep the public safe when he appointed Rob Bonta to be Attorney General. And when he was the mayor of San Francisco, one of his last acts ever was appointing George Gascon to be the district attorney of San Francisco. That's how this all got created.
We got some wobbly knees allies.
And Bonta, you're no better. It just took me a second to find this.
Every type of leadership is about meeting the moment and rising to the occasion. And this is what's required. And so we're stepping up and getting it done.
So Gavin's credibility on the public safety issue isn't super strong. He was not governor when Prop 47 and 57 were passed. That is true. He was lieutenant governor, and he did support those measures. And every single time he is asked about Prop 47 and how it has destroyed public safety in this state, he loves to push back on that. He gets all indignant. He also immediately followed in the California Way movie that he put on his YouTube page that as soon as we talk about public safety, we've got to talk about changing San Quentin into a rehabilitation facility.
And now we're taking the next step, restoring safety through justice by transforming our correctional system. 4 years ago, I closed San Quentin's death chamber doors, and we began to chart a new journey for justice.
Do we need the piano for this?
By 2025, this maximum security facility will transform into a center of rehabilitation and education, aimed at improving public safety and reducing recidivism rates throughout the state.
Sure. But you know what? Good luck with that. You know what? If we can make a deal, you want to reform the prison system, you want to make sure people are actually employable when they get out of prison, I 100% support that. I think that's great. But then you also got to get rid of the jackasses that say we can't send people to prison at all, like George Gascon and Ron Bonta and Pammy Price. We're not forgetting about you. Now, of course, it wouldn't be a movie about California without talking about California's most persistent problem, the homeless.
This is foundational.
In order for seeds to grow, there needs to be fertile soil.
Oh, we're getting straight into the metaphors. Is he going to try to submit himself for an Oscar for Best Short Film? What is this? And why has nobody talked about this movie except for me? I haven't seen anyone write a story about it. No other radio show picks up on a lot of the stuff we get because I dive real deep for these nuggets.
In order for seeds to grow, there needs to be fertile soil. And in order for a home to be built, there needs to be a solid foundation. That's why Californians are demanding accountability and results when it comes to housing and the mental health crisis. We're no longer settling for the status quo.
So in the movie that Gavin Newsom produced and voiced, in talking about how great California is, the California way, he can't talk about how successful we are on the homeless issue. So his big talking point is that Californians are demanding accountability on it.
I mean, it's not just about money. It's about damn accountability.
Of course, it also wouldn't be a Gavin Newsom video promoting California without also trashing other cities.
In California, we're using every tool in our toolbox, including the largest ever deployment of small homes in the state to address the homeless crisis and housing and treatment crisis head on, providing money to cities and counties with new accountability measures, cleaning up our streets and transforming public spaces. And we're building more housing faster, cutting red tape, holding cities accountable to providing their fair share.
It's the city's fault. I'm just here to give them money. Although, while I do love the idea of the things that he is saying here, building the housing faster, getting rid of the red tape,
cleaning up our streets and transforming public spaces. And we're building more housing faster, cutting red tape.
One of the things that the state of California is doing is when you are building affordable housing near a transit corridor, you no longer need to have a parking space for every unit of housing, which means if you're in places like cities in San Diego County or, I don't know, downtown L.A., you, on the assumption that people moving into your luxury condo are going to ride the metro, won't have a place to park. And then you have a situation where turns out everyone moving into the building does need a place to park because they have a car, because they have a job. They have nowhere to park, and it's a nightmare. So can we fix that? How difficult would it be to add an extra floor or two so everyone has a parking space for these buildings? Gavin also wanted to talk about mental health.
And we must support our veterans, who sadly continue to face too high a risk of homelessness. How does that even make sense?
It really doesn't. What's going on at the VA in West LA makes absolutely no sense. You have a giant plot of land that was dedicated towards veteran housing that we keep leasing out to UCLA and other private schools. That's ridiculous. The space is there. We're paying for it.
That's why we're rebuilding our system of mental health and behavioral health, placing a new measure on the 2024 ballot that will finally deliver on the commitment made more than 60 years ago when California began the process of closing down its mental health institutions amid a promise to provide more humane, community-based care. That never materialized.
And Gavin Newsom should get none of the blame for not materializing that in the last 4 years that he's been governor, or the 8 years before that he was lieutenant governor, or the 8 years before that he was mayor of San Francisco. Forget all of that. Now we're finally going to do something, if that ballot measure passes, because apparently we can't afford it right now. Shouldn't be that difficult. But there are some bizarre hurdles that make absolutely no sense at the federal level, and Karen Bass does talk about this and says that she's working with the Biden administration to do something about it. Apparently, if you want to build a new mental health facility or a rehab facility, because we're afraid of building loony bins, you cannot have a facility larger than 16 beds. That is insane.
What's just as important?
Oh, yeah, here's Gavin Newsom on education. And Gavin can't talk about education without trashing other states.
What's just as important as ensuring our children can have access to life-saving health care, ensuring they can have access to high-quality education. Yes, across America, education is under assault in states from Tennessee to Texas, Arkansas to Florida. Book bans, speech suppression, silencing and othering students and parents.
Take that, DeSantis. You seen DeSantis' poll numbers lately?
Attacking, vilifying, and demeaning teachers, educators, and librarians. Demagogues demonize the everyday heroes.
Look at that alliteration.
Demagogues demonize the everyday heroes of the classroom who have devoted their dreams to helping kids achieve theirs. We won't stand for it.
That's right, because when you think of education and success in the last couple of years, you think California.
Our learning spaces are special places.
Except we were the state that kept the schools closed the longest. There was also a weird scene in this, and it's not super easy to hear, so let me describe what's going on for you. We talked about how Gavin Newsom is reforming San Quentin, and most of this video, I'm playing you the sound, but you have to imagine for every single subject that we're talking about, there is footage of Gavin Newsom, while he's narrating himself, fist-bumping people like public works peoples and teachers and, bureaucrats, and this one, prisoners in San Quentin.
Doing an excellent job, man. I appreciate you. Thank you, man. Thank you, brother. We're all proud of you, man. Nice to see you, man.
Here's Gavin on healthcare.
We're expanding access to health care, regardless of immigration status, the ability to pay or pre-existing conditions, and lowering the costs of coverage by reducing premiums. On my first day in office, more than 4 years ago, I took action to bring down the cost of prescription drugs by leveraging Californians' market power. And now that work will soon be realized. We're bringing $30 insulin to all Californians.
And on top of that, we're now manufacturing our own Narcan, which ethically is bizarre.
What kind of future do we want?
Oh, yeah, now it's time to talk about the state burning down.
What kind of future do we want?
Notice how the music got more serious?
What kind of future do we want to leave our children? One of boundless opportunity? Or one of boundless hardship? The climate crisis is our call to action. Mother Nature's screeching warning sign that our children will face unimaginable hardship if we don't act.
You can tell how serious this is because the VO list is plucking.
Heat waves, severe drought, deadly wildfires. In just the past few years alone, we've seen...
He kind of missed the cue there. I don't know if he was doing the sound mixing there as well, but he should have hit the post and he let it breathe for a half second.
Wildfires. In just the past few years alone, we've seen whole communities nearly wiped off the map. Greenville, Paradise, Grizzly Flats.
Wait a second. What were the 3 towns you just referenced that Mother Nature killed?
Greenville, Paradise, Grizzly Flats.
If I was reviewing this film, I would have to put out a big disclaimer. There is a big old fallacy here.
Greenville,
PG&E.
Paradise,
PG&E.
Grizzly Flats.
PG&E. They started all of those fires with their faulty equipment, and PG&E is the company that you helped bail out with zero accountability, giving them safety certificates even when they weren't being safe, and have yet to hold PG&E accountable for actual violent criminal acts of killing people. On top of that, when Gavin Newsom went to the French Laundry, who was he there to see? His buddy, who is a lobbyist at PG&E. Here's Gavin giving Tesla a weird shout out.
I was proud to celebrate when Tesla announced opening of a new global headquarters for research and development right here in its state of birth, bringing hundreds of jobs and a vote of confidence in California's continued position as the tip of the spear of green tech and innovation.
I don't know who that's for, because depending on what day of the week it is, people on one side of the political spectrum love Elon Musk, and people on the other side of the political spectrum hate him. And it reverses constantly. And finally, let's get our big finale for Gavin Newsom's movie, which is available on his YouTube, The California Way.
From clean energy to protecting reproductive freedom, from tackling encampments to prioritizing mental health, from providing free meals for students to fundamentally rethinking incarceration, to manufacturing our own affordable medication and reinventing public schools. My optimism in California has not wavered. California is leading the way. Let us continue to work together to make the California dream achievable for every child, regardless of their immigration status, for all who call our great state home.
So what was the point of all that? I just need to know why it was produced, why he voiced it, and why they put it on their YouTube page with zero other announcements. No press releases, nothing else. Anyway, finally had to get that off my chest. I just thought that's the weirdest thing. It's 18 minutes of full-blown Gavin propaganda, and it's a fun one. It's a very sad day in the world of music as one of the all-time greats, one of the masters of the American songbook, Tony Bennett, has passed away at the age of 96. And I could sit here and I could tell you all of the great things about Tony Bennett, but I'm 38. What do I know? That's why we bring in the best in the business when it comes to talking about that era of music, a man who knows more about it than most. And you heard him here yakking about it for at least 20 years, Mr. Doug Mcintyre.
Randy, thank you for having me.
Dougie, what do you want to tell us about Tony Bennett?
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting him on a number of occasions, half a dozen times at least, and I did an event in 2012. They made a documentary called The Zen of Bennett, and it debuted in L.A. at the Landmark on the West Side, and I was invited to do the introduction and do the Q&A after the screening, and I've never said yes to anything faster in my entire life. The distributor said, do you want to do the introduction and Q&A with Tony B? And at the B, I said yes, and I didn't even get to the N it. Exactly. Because he's one of my heroes, and he's one of the heroes of music. And I think that's what's significant is that he really was the last man standing of an era, that his passing is really the last of the giants of that idiom of music known as the American songbook. There are other people who are really great at it. Obviously, Michael Bublé is sensational, and Lady Gaga has really put her markers in, and there's a lot of people who are superb singers of that great American art form, the popular songs that were specifically written from the late 20s into, I would stretch it to the early 60s, actually. There were plenty of them then, too. But the thing that Bennett had, what he had that no one else can replicate, is that he knew everybody. He knew the creators. He knew Irving Berlin. He knew Ira Gershwin. He knew Johnny Mercer. He knew the people who wrote the songs. He understood the music. And in the 1960s and 70s, when pop music had moved away from the songbook and rock and roll was king, Bennett insisted on not changing his style. He said, this is a universal sound, and maybe it won't be what it was, but I can't chase trends. This is what I do, and I want to be true to the roots of the music. And he wrote it out, and with brilliant management from his son, Danny, he had this exceptional second late-in-life career, starting really in his 60s with his MTV Unplugged special that won a Grammy Award, that album, won Emmy Awards. And then he had this tremendous collection of duet albums that he made with younger artists that introduced him to younger people. And what it did was it kept the music alive for another generation. And we're now seeing not only the Lady Gagas pick up on it, we're seeing other young artists who are starting to go into the catalog as they age. They're turning to music that's more sophisticated and more jazz-based than Billie Eilish sang some Peggy Lee songs at the Hollywood Bowl this summer. So you're starting to see younger people look to the songbook, and largely because Tony Bennett, after Sinatra's death, Tony Bennett kept it alive.
He kept it alive for at least, 15 years and was performing up until just last year.
Well, that's the thing that's amazing. And I'm sure that a lot of this will be played because a lot was made out of the fact that he was suffering from Alzheimer's. And I actually, retrospectively, think that the Alzheimer's was probably diagnosed earlier than it was publicly revealed, because even in the event that I did with him in 2012, he was a little. There were some awkward moments in the Q&A that retrospectively I think that maybe he was already suffering from the Alzheimer's. But music is the last thing. It's one of the more magical and remarkable and obviously awful things about Alzheimer's. But music hangs in there with people to the very end. And Bennett, in 2021, when he did the farewell concert with Lady Gaga at Radio City Music Hall, there were two astonishing things going on there. One, he was performing with Alzheimer's, and he performed flawlessly. He could remember everything about his songs. Then there's the fact that he sounded like that. The power of his voice at 94 years of age was just inexplicable. I mean, really, there's no way to explain how he could sound like that. And then there was the third thing. The third thing was he performed, traded choruses with Gaga on a couple of songs. That's a medical marvel, because it's one thing for you to go out there and sing solo your own songs. Even with Alzheimer's, the music prompts the words. They're melded together. But he was trading choruses, so you have to rehearse that. You have to know when to come in and when to get out to let her sing. And he did it flawlessly, and I have no idea how that happened.
It's just absolutely incredible, but it does go to show to something about music specifically. I'm sure you've seen the videos of people suffering from deep, deep Alzheimer's, and they put headphones on them. They start playing them old records they remember from earlier in their life, and they become animated. They become functional. It's an incredible thing that music does to the brain, even with a debilitating disease like that.
Yeah, and Bennett was able to perform brilliantly, not just it wasn't a pity tour. It was an incredibly emotional and creatively rewarding experience to be in the audience with Tony Bennett. Here's the other thing. We went to see him. Penny and I went to see him at the then Staples Center on his 85th birthday. So he came out with no opening act, and he performed for almost 2 straight hours. And he not only didn't take a sip of water, he didn't even have a bottle of water on the stage. So his instrument, his vocal cords, his ability to go out there and just hit these huge notes for an extended period of time was just, it was freakish, really, because his voice changed a little bit as he got older. It deepened a little bit. He went to a baritone from a tenor. When he was younger, he's really up there with high notes. But he never developed of course, he didn't live like Sinatra. He got his abuse over in the 70s when he did have a cocaine issue, and he was very open in talking about that, and he pulled out of that early, moved back to New York, centered himself, and then had this extraordinary third act of a career where his audiences got younger the older he got. I mean, they just got younger and younger people started showing up to the shows.
It's fascinating. I don't know when's the next time we're going to see somebody who has been in the pop culture for 8 decades.
Well, there's a few. Dick Van Dyke's there. I think Mel Brooks is certainly. Mel Brooks started to become known to the public in the 50s on the Sid Caesar Show, but it's very rare. And pop music is the most fickle of all the performing arts as a general rule. Every generation has its musical icons, and then, they age out. But what Bennett was able to do was to reconnect with new people. And look, I love the songbook, the American Songbook. It's my favorite kind of music. I think it's the most literate and the most melodic. But musical tastes are very personal. And it's never going to be the pop music of the world as it once was for a very long period of time. It's just not going to be. But the catalog of songs that these great singers, the Nat Coles and the Sinatras, obviously, and Ella Fitzgerald and people like that, Billie Holiday, that created this whole encyclopedia of music, and Bennett kept alive on concert stages in front of huge crowds all around the world. I mean, you want to see a great performance of New York State of Mind, rent the video tonight of Billy Joel's last play at Shea, the last concert at Shea Stadium in New York before they tore it down. Paul McCartney ends the show, comes out, but Tony Bennett comes out and sings with Billy Joel, New York State of Mind, in front of 58,000 people and just kills the crowd, just murders it. And he did that every place he ever went. There's no phoning it in. There was never any phoning it in. And in addition to, I want to say a few things about him as a person. In addition to this massive talent, he may have been one of the nicest people in the world. I mean, he was a tough guy because you have to say no a lot when you have that level of stardom. But he was a genuinely sweet person. He was a person who grew up in real poverty in Astoria, Queens. He went into World War II and saw terrible things. He was one of the grunts who liberated a death camp. One of his redneck sergeants saw him fraternizing with some black soldiers who he knew from the neighborhood, and to punish him, transferred him to grave registration detail. And I don't know if you know what that entails, but grave registration detail is digging up bodies hastily buried in a battlefield so that they can be returned to their loved ones. And it is gruesome work to have to disinter a hastily buried soldier who was shot and killed, awfully blown apart. And he had to do that for several months as a punishment because he dared to talk to black people who were fighting for our country. He walked with Martin Luther King. He was very, very much, a pacifist. In fact, he didn't like to sing the national anthem because it was a war song from the War of 1812. He used to like to sing God Bless America or America the Beautiful.
Yeah, we played America the Beautiful to open the show today. He doesn't. A lot of the old crooners won't do the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah, that's the personal choice. I don't quite get it, but because it's not, I don't think many people here in the Star Spangled Banner are reflecting on it being, written during the War of 1812 by a slave owner, who was Francis Scott Key. But whatever, that was Tony's choice. And guess what? Anybody who liberated a death camp and fought in World War II has the right to choose whatever the hell he wants to do. That's one of the things he fought for. But as I thoroughly enjoy most of my encounters with him were a handshake. That's all. It was a handshake. The longest period of time I got to spend with him was that couple of amazing nights working around the periphery of his documentary. But there's something in that documentary too. If you want to see a real window into the kind of guy he was, they shot the recording of Body and Soul he did with Amy Winehouse. That was released as a record and as a video. And Amy Winehouse was in very bad shape at the time. She had not performed in over a year. She was a nervous wreck. And she was having real trouble in the studio. And the documentary cameras are capturing all of this. And then the people in the booth start pushing the talkback button, and they start trying to coach her through it. And he looks up at the booth and says, "Stay out of this. I got it." And he puts his arm around her and comforts her and says, "Darling, I'm not in a rush. We'll take all day, whatever it takes to make this work. So don't relax." And he calms her down. And then you see her open up and they get through the song. But you just see, he understood, this girl does not need a bunch of people barking at her. We're going to get through this. She's in trouble. And then, of course, being an older person, he had more wisdom, having gone through the drugs himself. He understood that she was fragile, and he had buried many, many friends who were lost to drugs and alcohol over the years. And he understood what this was and had the compassion to get her through a tough moment.
It's really it's incredible. And Doug, you were running out of time. Real quick, I know that you're out there promoting Frank's Shadow. Where are you going to be next?
Actually, tomorrow, I'm going to be in Long Beach at a lovely independent bookstore called Gatsby's Books at 5535 East Spring Street, right in Long Beach at noon. So by all means, come out. And then this coming Wednesday, the 26th, I'll be at Pages, a bookstore in Manhattan Beach on Manhattan Avenue at 6:30. So by all means, come on out, and I'd love to see you. And thanks so much, Randy, for giving Tony a little curtain call here, because he certainly deserves it.
Well, thank you so much for not only, giving this audience your love of people like Tony Bennett and Sinatra for years and years and years. I don't think I would know anything about these people if it wasn't for you. And thanks so much for coming on and eulogizing this giant.
Yeah, he was a giant. There's no question about it.
It's Doug McIntyre, everybody. DougMcIntyre.com.